The Thousand-Armed Goddess of Mercy, Chapter 2 The Road Not Taken. The mistaken impression of having time before she acted on her foreknowledge faded soon after the village began to change rapidly under the second Hokage's command. There was an academy for shinobi now. Chunin exams were a thing. People, unsurprisingly, seemed happier the further they distanced themselves from the war, and the village was flourishing thanks to its new leader. Tsunade could walk and talk and thus became a menace, like all kids her age ought to be. She played along when her grandpa taught her gambling games, despite her parents' exasperation, and didn't take it to heart when she lost every time. The other Tsunade's rotten luck wasn't to blame for this. Her luck was abysmal before she was reborn too. Life was good. Like all pleasant things though, the illusion of peace came to an end. It wasn't some grand event or war that disillusioned her. It was the casual disregard towards the Uchiha, who may not have been treated as badly as Kana Naruto, but weren't very well liked either. The few times that she approached other Uchiha kids to play ended in immediate rejection, most often brought on by the kids' parents pulling them away. Tsunade couldn't blame them for it. She was the Senju princess, after all, and if any harm came to her while they played, the Uchiha would doubtlessly get blamed for it. Understanding the reasons behind the effect made it no less hurtful. It did force her to face reality, though. Her grandpa was going to die soon, there's going to be a war, and she was pretty sure that she'll already be out of the academy by the time it starts. Even if Tsunade herself was spared, there is no forgetting the fact that the other Tsunade was the last living Senju in canon. Something fucked up is going to happen to her clan, and with no foreknowledge as to what that was, she will stand no chance of preventing it. Whether she liked it or not, her life as she knew it was temporary. What was she going to do then? Did she even want to be a kunoichi? Tsunade certainly had the making of one, even without the advantage of being reborn. She was going to have phenomenal chakra control and a metric shit-ton of it to wield. Her thoughts wandered then. She thought of her parents, both of whom had lost siblings. Her grandpa, who'd lost 2 of his children. Her grandma, who had sacrificed her health to become the host of the Nine Tails. Her granduncle, who never let go of his hatred toward the Uchiha. Her future little brother, who will be born into a world at war, who might not even make it to puberty. She was going to lose so many people. So many people. Tsunade wasn't conceited enough to think that she could save all of them. Shit, she'd be lucky if she managed to save any, and good fortune was the one thing she had a shortage of. She couldn't trust the fates to grant her wishes, even if she somehow managed to stack the odds in her favor. No, she'll have to take matters into her own hands if she was to change anything for the better. Kunoichi life it is then. The decision may have seemed simple, as it followed very well-structured logic, but it really wasn't. Tsunade wasn't even sure if she had what it takes to be a killer for hire. A straight-up murderer. To be perfectly honest, she was fairly certain that she didn't, which meant that she would have to learn. She wasn't sure what she dreaded more, the learning or the lesson. Ugh. It took several weeks for the gravity of the decision to fully settle. Her family had commented on her silence several times, but no one pushed, which was for the best. Tsunade really didn't want to be pressured into lying, especially not to a bunch of shinobi who might actually call her out for it. With that behind her, the next question begging her attention was what sort of kunoichi was she to be? A frontline fighter? A medic nin? An assassin? A spy? The last 2 were shot down immediately. Assassination wasn't a good match because, while she may be persuaded to kill in her own defense and that of her teammates, Tsunade would have a harder time killing on orders. Spying would likely require the use of seduction techniques, and though she was less averse to those than to straight-up fucking murder, no one in their right mind would let her tread that path. The Senju princess was above such things. She tried not to think about how fucked up it was that a job so impactful was considered something to be ashamed of. If there was no need for kunoichi with that skill set, no woman would pursue it. Seeing as seduction missions were very much a thing, kunoichi playing that game were positively vital to the village's conduct. Why the fuck were they scorned then? What a fucking joke. The remaining options would have her become a powerhouse or a healer. The former would involve a lot of murder, seeing as someone strong enough to qualify would be best for riskier missions, and those tended to go south more often. The path of a medic was barred to her also, as she had already dedicated 1 life to it, and for what? She was murdered by the same person she was trying to fucking help. Tsunade just wasn't up for doing it again. The lesser of 4 evils would be becoming a frontline fighter then. Joy. She didn't have time to come to terms with that decision, however, before more variables were added to the equation. Tsunade spent the most wonderful morning in the Senju Gardens sometime in early fall. Her mother had settled with her back to one of the majestic trees peppered all over, leaning against it and sighing at the relief it provided. She'd been unwell recently and had just recovered from a severe cold. She'd brought a book with her, a history tome designed as a storybook, made more palatable for the children and naturally ripe with pro-Konoha and pro-Senju propaganda. Tsunade was glad for it, however bare it was. Even a vague reminder as to the many things she had forgotten about the Naruto series, like the Warring States period, was welcome. She rested her head in her mother's lap, closed her eyes, and listened. Her mother stopped mid-sentence. Tsunade paid it no mind at the time, assuming that the pause was designed to be dramatic. Her immersion was broken by the spine of the heavy book colliding with her nose. She cried out and jumped to her feet, hand instinctively rising to her bleeding nose. A glance towards her mother, through eyelashes heavy with tears, revealed that the woman's eyes had fallen shut and her head had lolled to the side. "Okasan?" Tsunade asked, pinching her nose to slow the bleeding. Fuck, it hurt. Anxiety rose from her stomach to her throat at the lack of response, trying to force its way out as if it was bile. Her heart was beating in her ears, making it difficult to concentrate on the situation at hand, but Tsunade persisted. "Okasan," she tried again, shaking the motionless woman's shoulder. Still nothing. "Help!" she yelled, while simultaneously pulling her mother to the ground with as much care as she could manage. "Someone, help!" A press of fingers to the woman's pulse point reassured Tsunade that her mother's heart was beating still, though it raced much faster than she would have expected of a physically fit woman in her 20s. She gently pulled her mother's eyelids up, just a little, and was glad to find no rapid eye movement. At least she wasn't dealing with a fucking stroke. A touch of fingers to the woman's forehead had Tsunade pulling away with a hiss. Yeah, that was one high fever she was running. "Help!" Tsunade tried again, though she already knew it was for naught. If there were no shinobi enraged to hear her earlier cries, the most recent ones would go unnoticed too. Tsunade tore the sleeves off her dress, pushed the fabric into her nostrils, and ran towards the compound. It was the greatest physical challenge she had faced in this life so far. Running at a high speed while half blinded by tears and only breathing through her mouth was not easy, but she would do it. For her mom. The pain she endured didn't even factor in. Was it Tsunade's fault that her mom collapsed? Was she going to die? What about her brother, Naoki? Would him not being born be another death on her hands? "Shinobi-san!" she cried out as soon as she saw the first forehead protector. Her to-be savior was a teenager, barely past puberty, with short-cropped red hair and sea-blue eyes. "Shinobi-san, I need help!" "Oi, kid, what happened?" "Senju-hime!" His eyes widened at the sight she must have made, what with her torn clothes and the blood on her face. Then again when he recognized her. "What? Were you attacked? Where?" "Not attacked," she cut him off. "Okasan passed out. She needs to go to the hospital. Pick me up." "You're bleeding. Pick me up!" He didn't try arguing with her again. Tsunade proceeded to give the boy the most precise directions she could muster, informing him of her mother's present pulse and fever. She almost cried in relief when they found the woman's form exactly where she had left it. "Can you carry her?" she asked him. Of course, he agreed, gently picking her up, then crouched with his back to Tsunade. "Here, climb up." The journey to the hospital was both terrifying and exhilarating. The boy took to the roofs, but he lacked the care that her grandpa and granduncle exuded around Tsunade, prioritizing speed over comfort. Tsunade tried to hang on to the straps of his armor rather than his neck, knowing that she would choke the living shit out of him otherwise. They made it to the hospital in what felt like seconds, but must have been several minutes. Her mother was breathing heavily at this point, but at least she was fucking breathing. Emotions were hard to deal with in this form. Not a single second had passed between her mother being submitted to the medic's care and Tsunade collapsing on the floor, crying. The rest of the hospital visit passed in a haze. Her nose was treated, the blood was cleaned off, and a kind nurse brought her a hospital gown to change into. The red-haired boy who helped Tsunade earlier found her a place to sit in the waiting room before disappearing, only to return a short time later with Dango. She didn't have it in her to speak yet, but Tsunade shot him a grateful glance, hugged him tightly around the torso, and proceeded to quietly nibble on the offered treat. Without saying another word, the boy sat down next to her. Together, they waited. Konoha's hospital was a flaming, stinking pile of shit. Fuck, it was generous to call it a hospital at all. There was a shortage of staff, both professional and administrative, a very limited amount of medicine, and barely enough space to accommodate a few dozen people. Tsunade felt that the general attitude among the medics was something in the lines of, keep them alive until their chakra heals them on its own, with no regard for risk or discomfort. Where the fuck were all the medicnin anyway? Civilian doctors could do a lot, sure, but wasn't the whole point of being a shinobi abusing the cheaty magic system? She asked around a bit after she calmed down. Turns out that the hospital does have medicnin, but they were only available on emergencies. Not only that, but they wouldn't treat anyone under Chunin to conserve manpower, in the nurse's words. It was bad enough, of course, that the nurse saw no issue with the protocol. She found this to be a recurring pattern in Konoha. The people were so set in their ways in most aspects that they simply wouldn't notice the things they overlooked or took for granted. This among them. Is it because they're too busy with field work? How many medicnin does the hospital employ? Tsunade didn't get her second question answered, unfortunately, as the nurse found the first so hilarious that she broke out laughing, effectively forcing the dialogue into a halt. Medicnin don't belong on the field, kid, she said matter-of-factly. Tsunade saw red. She wasn't sure if the surge of emotion had to do with the semi-traumatic event that occurred that morning, her being an emotional child, or if she was legitimately just upset with the dismissal of Medicnin. How could a nurse, a medical professional who dedicated her life to helping people, not loathe the fact that the best healers were only available to the elite? Was it envy of their superior potential to help people? It couldn't be. Medicnin were regarded as badly as seduction specialists, if not worse. Tsunade found it hard to believe that their status was something to be jealous of. In the Senju clan, the Medicnin were exclusively retired field shinobi who wanted to benefit their village despite their disability or rarely old age. Would it be like that in the hospital too? Was being a Medicnin the sort of profession people only went for when they couldn't do anything else? She felt sick. Tsunade didn't say anything at the time, which was probably for the best. Screaming at the woman would have revealed too much of her more vulgar vocabulary. No one needed to know that the 2-year-old could curse like a seasoned shinobi, and she didn't want anyone asking where she learned that sort of language from anyway. She returned to her place in the waiting room, dropping into her chair with a huff. "What got you so worked up, Hime?" asked the red-headed shinobi, who had loyally stayed with her the entire time. "Adults can be very stupid," she bit back harshly. Tsunade knew that he had nothing to do with her emotional turmoil, and did not deserve her attitude, but she couldn't help it. Not really. This was so fucked up. How many civilians died from the common cold every year? How many ninja died from infection? Did women here still regularly die during childbirth? What about the kids? Tsunade took a deep, shaky breath. "Sorry. I'm not mad at you." The red-headed shinobi laughed, but unlike the receptionist from earlier, there was nothing dismissive about it. "I'm gonna have to agree with you there," he said warmly, gently ruffling her already messy hair. "No one is immune to being stupid." She said nothing, but internally agreed.